Frankenstein is probably one of the most famous horror and science fiction stories of all time, but is one of its most famous lines a fake? This is Dr. Calvin Taylor. I'll be talking today about Frankenstein, giving you an example of how you might do an adaptation analysis. So the line, of course, is "it's alive," a phrase that's become kind of synonymous with the Frankenstein story. But where did it come from? The 1931 James Whale film is probably best known for establishing this Frankenstein's monster, the iconic image of the big, tall, green, lumbering monster. In the scene when he animates the body, we watch the hand move up. Dr. Frankenstein watches carefully, kind of obsessively, and as he notices the hand move, he screams, "It's alive! It's alive!" So excited is he jumps up and has to be restrained by two people who are there, strangely enough, as he shouts in the end, "Now we know what it is to be gods." He's really over the moon with his invention, or his established what he set out to do. The 1994 Kenneth Branagh film attempted to remain closer to the original text, and we get a much more realistic looking monster sewed together from people. Here it's a much more elaborate set. The monster boils in a kind of sarcophagus of water and electric eels. Frankenstein gets atop it, looks through the view hole and shouts, "Live! Live!" as screams it, and the monster opens its eyes, blinks, opens them again, and he screams, "Yes!" He climbs down then, sort of saying, "It's alive, it's alive." So importantly, this phrase has the effect of establishing the moment of creation as kind of a moment of celebration. The moment the creature is animated, there is initial joy from Frankenstein at his creation. But this is ruined by his reflection on what he's done. This is really quite different from the original text. As Shelley writes, "I had worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. For this I had deprived myself of rest and health. I had desired it with an ardour that far exceeded moderation. But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart." For Shelley, that moment when the creature comes to life is the moment of horror. It's the abomination. It's not something to be celebrated. That's the moment when something happens which shouldn't. It's that horror and shame for Frankenstein that in the text is immediate. As soon as the creature opens its eyes, he says his limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of pearly whiteness. But there's that but again. These luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes that seemed almost of the same colour as the dun white sockets in which they were set, his shrivelled complexion and straight black lips. It's not the celebratory stance of the other two versions. He's not shouting "it's alive," he's not celebrating. Instead, in the original text, that moment where he succeeds is the moment he is horrified with himself and what he's done. So really, what is Shelley saying in this moment that the films miss? Frankenstein realises his mistake, yes. The films, yes, he realises his mistake, but on reflection, once he realises the consequences. The novel, it's immediately obvious that this is wrong. Is Shelley suggesting that Frankenstein's actions are innately wrong? It's not regards to the consequences of the action, it's the actions themselves. What he does is wrong. Is she therefore suggesting that the limits of knowledge are not as a result of what might happen, but that there are just limits there that should never be breached? Is that a point that Frankenstein in the original text realizes, but that in the film is missed?